Hello there. Hi and welcome. I'm Meriah Kruse. I'm a marketing strategist and coach for very small businesses and solopreneurs. I'm also a longtime Feldenkrais and Bones for Life practitioner, a greeting card designer, dancer, mother, and special needs grandmother. My company, Life Force Marketing, is the host of today's episode of Hear Tell Spotlight on Pathfinders. This interview series is part of my project, Be Heard Online and Beyond. This initiative encourages business owners, writers, artists, and leaders for change to find their voices and make themselves more visible, more audible for some important purpose. I encourage people to share their leadership, their knowledge, opinions, perspectives, and wisdom with others, either toward building a business, a movement, an organization, a career, or some other reason. My passion is to encourage each person who wants to be heard to muster the courage to cultivate the perseverance, to gain the skills that they need, and to take the necessary steps to be heard online and beyond. As a part of this project, I have the privilege of writing about and sometimes interviewing people who are being heard in one form or another and who are demonstrating excellence in the process. Those one-to-one features are called Hear Tell, a spotlight on Pathfinders, and that's why we're here today. Hear Tell is an old-fashioned expression I've heard all my life living in Kentucky. We use that expression like this: from what I hear tell, this is what happened. So that's where this name came from. And Hear Tell is the essence of being heard online. One person tells a story or shares her experience or expertise. Another person hears or reads in an article, a post, a newsletter, and shares what they learned with somebody else. And then the news and the stories travel, hearing and telling. Today is the third chapter in Hear Tell, a spotlight on Pathfinders. Today we'll be speaking with someone I've known for 2 years and who has become an indispensable friend, a woman who really lives up to the definition of Pathfinder, discovering and lighting a path for others to follow. Let me tell you a little bit about Soreyda Begley. Let me have a sip of water too. Soreyda is a fashion designer. She's a radio host, community activist, originally from Honduras. She's a mother of incredible children, and she's now based in Lexington, Kentucky. She travels around the U.S. and internationally, speaking on issues of fair trade, women and minority rights, sustainable development, and just for the fun of sharing her skills and her culture. One thing I know from experience is that she does create a lot of fun around her, and she loves to lift up others to their greatest levels of self-expression. So who could be a better fit for Hear Tell? So now let's welcome Soreyda Begley to the studio. And here she comes. Hi, Soreyda.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. You sound good. You look good. I'm so glad you're here.
Let me take my glasses off. Yes, there you go. That's better. I can't see much, but and then you can see my face. So
It's true. I hated for you to have to take off those good-looking glasses, though.
I know they're
Somebody
really cool.
Somebody has to figure out what to do about this glare problem because
Yes.
we all have them. So there's so much I want to ask you. We could talk for an hour, but we won't. You know, it's going to be probably 20 minutes or so that we'll talk. So for those of you that are here, you'll probably go away feeling like you want to know more, and we'll let you know where you can learn more. But so let's just jump in, okay?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So one thing I've admired and enjoyed about getting to know you is your deep connection to the world. Not just our world of the United States, but also of Latin America, which is your homeland. You not only understand our American artist lifestyle, but also that of the creative, aspirational, hardworking, but very poor people for whom life is often precarious and opportunities are scarce. Could you tell us a little bit about your background from a child who made clothes for her dolls to being a garment worker to a fashion designer, cultural artist, and political activist. Now, I know this is a big topic, so if you could just share maybe your favorite abbreviated version of this story.
Sure. Well, I'm very ambiguous in a way, culturally speaking, racially speaking, because I'm biracial. My mother is from indigenous background, a Honduran, and my father is was a Garifuna, which is ethnic group that are settled in Honduras that, or descendants of people who were brought to be slave in the Americas, and they formed this very strong and interesting ethnic group. And so I grew up between cultures, and Honduras, even though it's a very small country, has several indigenous groups. It has some very interesting culture. We have Asian Hondurans, we have Jewish Hondurans, so we have kind of some interesting mixes in there. And I always been very curious about meeting people and connect with people. That is just my nature, is to
Mm-hmm.
go around. And so growing up in Honduras, I lived near three other indigenous groups besides the Garifunas, which was the Tawaka, the Pech, and the Misquitos. And so I think that being between cultures and between different type of people, just set me up, and pretty much everybody who was in my area, to be very curious about other people's life experiences and sharing ours as well. But yeah, I grew up in Honduras and then moved to the States when I was 23 years old after I got married to an archaeologist. So that also puts me in a place where I'm able to experience work culture from a different angle, the academic and also the very personal and life experience side. So yeah, I'm very lucky to have such a multicultural life experience, and
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna happen.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's wonderful that you're now able to translate that to a lot of people. I've learned so much from you about a perspective that I could never have since I've known you. And every single time that we have a conversation, I learn something new. So I admit that prior to meeting you, maybe 18 months ago or so, I really had had very little exposure to the fashion industry, other than as a consumer
Mhm.
and someone who loves to watch the runways during fashion weeks around the world. I do love that. But that was it. One of the ways in which you've surprised me as we've become friends is how down to earth you are. Not at all my concept of a fashion designer from what I have seen in Fashion Week around the world. And I heard in a previous interview, someone asked you, how do you figure out what will be the next big thing in fashion? And your answer was really an eye opener for me, but I already knew this about you somehow. You said something to the effect that that is not your concept of fashion, that you simply want to create beautiful things that help people enjoy life and to enjoy wearing their clothing. I wonder, has this point of view ever put you at odds with the industry at large or created uncomfortable encounters for you with your peers or maybe defined, who you end up working with in the industry?
It has, and particularly one time when I was interviewed to be in Project Runway, because I have applied, I think, like 14 times, and I got called back twice. And in one of the interviews, they saw the pieces that I brought to show, and they said, "Well, we can't see you as a designer through your work, because the pieces that you brought, they don't look like a collection, they don't look cohesive." And I thought that
Hmm.
they were thinking about it from a commercial side or commercial perspective, thinking that you had to present a product that is recognizable as made by somebody else. And of course, we can have the same um, approach when it comes to our body of work as artists. But because I do costume work, I mostly, like individual pieces for individuals, I have to try to
Hmm.
fit what the the demand or needs of the customer is individually. I'm not thinking of consumers as a mass. Yeah,
Hmm.
I'm thinking more. I'm used to working more as individuals, getting to know them, what is that they need and when they're gonna wear the piece that they're gonna have made. So yeah, it does, because I think in the industry is often think the people think of designers, so somebody's going to have a brand and you're going to just go to the rack and grab whatever they have, and so you're basically telling people, this is what I'm making and this is what are you going to wear, which my approach has been more of a one-on-one type of a situation. But yeah, it can be very challenging, and of course it's hard to keep up the business side of that, because it requires a lot of time to make individual pieces, and sometimes people, they don't understand what it goes into designing individual pieces, and the time and the creative, also the creativity that you have to put on it, the technical aspect of figuring out how you're going to make each piece each time with to fit each a specific body. But I enjoy it. That's how I always done it. And so, it's challenging, but at the same time has her good side, that it keeps me, can be like constantly learning and trying to figure out new things. And I get bored making repetitive things. I can't do that. It's really hard for me. Yeah, after I work in factories also for so long, they kind of like, sometimes I just get panic attack thinking that I can be sitting doing the same thing for a month or more. I'm like, I can't do that. I can't live that life.
And having had that life, you know that that's not your direction.
No. Definitely it's not. That's what I got out of it, because I just understood early on, after working, in the factory for 6 years, not continuously, but in and out. I decided, no, this is not, I can't live like this. It felt like really dying every day, going in there and sitting in a machine for 14 plus hours doing the same thing. Because that's how the factories are. You sit in there, you do one thing, you basically don't learn anything, because you're doing the same thing. And so there is no personal and skill advancement on that system. And I'm too curious for that.
And I think there are people all over the world in many, many different type of work situations who have also tried to deal with the repetitive boredom of work. And I, for one, and everyone who knows you, is glad that you managed to not have to stay with that and to leave that life and to create such an exciting life with your husband and your family and this giant community of people who love you and support you and respond to your leadership, which I have seen firsthand. As you know, Hear Tell is meant to inspire and perhaps even educate others who want their voices to be heard online and beyond. Is there any advice or guidance you'd like to offer to our listeners who may be thinking about writing a book or starting a podcast, taking a stand or taking a leadership role in a movement or an organization?
To keep on learning, keep on growing, and change your mind as often as possible. That is very important thing to be open to, not to be set in one way of thinking. And ever since I moved to the States, I have changed my mind about so many things, because I have gotten new information and new perspectives. And so that is something that I have learned to value a lot, to be able to, grow. That's growth, when you are open to hear what other people have been through and how they see things, and yeah, be curious, try to be honest about the relationships that you build. Not always building relationships based on what you need, because those relationships are not gonna last. And because if they're based on something that is egotistic or self-centered, it's not gonna last. So you just make sure that if you when you go into relationship, and speaking like any relationship that you go into, that you bring something to the table, and set boundaries, of course, because it can happen that as activists or people who are very public, there's a tendency of others to think that we have to be available at all times for anything. And so setting boundaries is very important, or you just kind of burn yourself out. But it's something that you learn and to practice with time, because I used to make all the mistakes and felt overwhelmed at times and make a lot of mistakes because of it. And so being a little more cool-headed, it takes time, and learn to
Mhm.
figure it out, like how can you be more proactive and utilize your time and skills in the best way.
Thank you. That was a great answer and very substantive. Real, I mean, it's obvious that you've arrived at some conclusions based on experiencing things. It's not theoretical for you. I'm
Yeah.
wondered if you could talk to our listeners a little bit about how you became interested in what some people call sustainability in fashion.
Well, that's what I always did. I even know I was doing, because, when I was growing up, I was eating organic food, and I even knew I was doing it because that's all we ate. We grew most of our food,
Mm-hmm.
and then I was just using whatever materials I had access to create my pieces, because I had no resources. So when I moved to the States is when I learned that, that actually when you do this, you use trash or you use other materials to make other products that is considered sustainable. So it was just that's how I grew up. That's, we are very resourceful in Honduras. Growing up, we had to fix things. We really didn't use plastic probably until I was in my teens. We mostly utilize glass or aluminum containers, or natural containers, like made from different plants that grow, that they're hardened, and then you cut them into half and use them like containers to hold things, or
Mm-hmm.
even bamboo that you
Mm-hmm.
cut it and make little cups out of, that kind of stuff. So we had a quite a sustainable lifestyle, and it was not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily intentional. We were poor and we had little resources, so we just used what was accessible to us, which was mainly provided by nature. So it just, when I moved here, it's like, oh, you're sustainable. Okay, I guess so. It was not even like, okay, I want to be sustainable designer. It's like, that's all I knew how to be.
But now that you've been here and you are obviously very aware of the issue of sustainability in fashion, and that I think probably most of our listeners will not know about the enormous amount of waste in the fashion industry. And I know from previous conversations we've had that really bothers you, and that you actively work toward encouraging sustainable practices. And one of the ways you've been doing that is on a new kind of way of being heard online. It's relatively new, just a little over a year old, I think, and that is Clubhouse. And for those that don't know what Clubhouse is, it's an audio platform, and so you can go on and join a room, and basically you're joining a conversation. And the conversations are not recorded, and it's all audio. There might be a little photograph of the person who's talking, but that's it. It's not a visual medium. And I've heard you on there quite a bit, and I know one of the places that I know that sometimes on Clubhouse you're talking in rooms where there are other fashion designers, and you're really kind of trying to encourage more sustainable practices. So I wonder if you could just talk us a little bit about what it's like to be on Clubhouse, and who you're meeting, what you guys are talking about, if you feel it's been effective way for you to, I don't know, spread your ideas.
Yeah, I signed in on Clubhouse in March this year. And for a bit, I was very engaged. I got to meet people from all over the world. It was super exciting. And after being in lockdown for a year or so, it was kind of exciting to be able to have these conversations with people, even though it was not in person. It's just different to be able to listen to people's voices and how their tone and the way they communicate is definitely special. And yeah, I started to join different rooms. I've been invited to speak in several rooms related to many issues, mostly, fashion, but also like indigenous topics and women's rights and factory workers' rights. It has been really exciting experience. And I'm working right now with a friend from Costa Rica that I met through Clubhouse because of the sustainable rooms that I participate on. And we are collaborating and creating a room to talk about sustainability um, in uh, in Spanish, because there are very few rooms that talk about this, and so we want to create something where we can invite Spanish speakers from all over the world to share the ideas, the projects they're working on, and also try to find solutions for the issues that our countries are facing, because most of them are in the tropics, and the impact of climate change is
Yeah.
more obvious and drastic in these areas. And so we want to just kind of bring everybody together and trying to find solutions, and also raise our voices, because as a member of an ethnic group and indigenous group, um, we need to start amplifying the voices of indigenous
Yeah.
people and listened, because
Mhm.
indigenous people, even though there's 5% of they're 5% of the population of the world, take care of 85% of the natural resources that we have left. So it's
Mhm.
very important to find a platform where we can provide a space for them to speak. And so that's what we're trying to do. That's my next big project that I'm working on with Alejandra Garcia from Costa Rica.
I am very hopeful about that. I think that's
Mhm.
just so exciting and full of nothing but potential. And gosh, that's what Clubhouse is invented for.
Mhm.
And so I think one thing I want to say to our listeners is that sometimes we might feel jaded about online opportunities to be heard, or we might think of it as being purely commercial, or even if it is commercial, we might think of that as somehow as being tainted, or you know, old hat or something. But these platforms exist, and if we use our own imaginations and listen to our heart about what's important to us, what do we really want to accomplish, then we can use these platforms in imaginative ways, which is exactly what you are doing with Clubhouse. I'm so proud of you.
Oh, thank you. And I'm so proud of you also for this new program that you have created. It's very exciting. You definitely are very proactive when it comes to utilizing online presence. And it is really neat. Also, you are opening it up for other people to be able to do the same.
Good. Thank you for that.
Mhm.
So, is there anything that you have coming up that you'd like? We know that you're working on this Clubhouse. Oh, this new Clubhouse room. Do you know what it's going to be called yet?
We don't know yet. We're still deciding on the name,
Mhm.
but it will be within the lines of sustainability in Latin America or something
Okay,
like that.
something
Yeah.
like that.
Mhm.
Well, good luck with that. And I won't be able to be in that room because I don't speak enough Spanish to participate. But but it's going to help a lot of people, many, many people. I really feel positive about what's going to happen there. So I believe that we've listed your website in the comments in both Facebook and YouTube. My son, who is also kind of a partner of mine, he's assisting today. And so he's in those rooms posting links to things in the comments so that you can learn more about Soreyda. Is there anything else you want to tell us about that you've got coming up?
Well, future of fashion, because we have to postpone it 3 days before it happened in 2020 because of the
Mhm.
pandemic. And so we are finally getting together to start creating new promo material. I'm working with Sarah Jane Estes and with
Mhm.
Esmeralda Cedillo and creating new pieces that are going to be used for the new promotional material for the show. And this is a multi media event focused on sustainability that I have done it with some other artists. We did it for five years, and then we tried to do it last year, and we had to postpone it. But we have a hem design competition that's a part of it, and the information for this event is in my website. And it's gonna be held in April next year,
Good.
from the 21st to the 24th. That you also are part of it as a designer, which is
Mhm.
pretty exciting.
It is.
And so, yeah, we're gonna get back to that show, and hopefully, things will improve. It's been a very difficult year for everybody, and just trying to get back into the things that we love, and definitely community, fashion, art, some things that bring so much joy. And so I'm excited for it. Hopefully it'll happen. Fingers crossed.
I encourage anybody who lives anywhere near Central Kentucky, and there'll be people coming from many other states for this event, which is going to take place here. And it's going to probably, for some people, it might be the first time they've ever gone to a fashion show, but it's also going to be a lot more than a fashion show.
Mm-hmm.
So even those who've been to many fashion shows are going to find lots of things to be excited and surprised about in this very unique community event that Soreyda has been spearheading for the past years. So thank you so much, Soreyda Benedict Begley, and to Doug, who's in the background, for being here with us today. It just meant the world to me that you could take the time, even though I know you're very busy right now. And so I'll say good night, and I'll talk to you again soon. But audience, don't go away yet, because I have a few more things to say.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
You're welcome. You're so welcome. Oh, wasn't that refreshing? She's amazing. So thank you to my listening audience here. Again, I'm Meriah Kruse from Life Force Marketing, and this is part of our Be Heard project. I hope you enjoyed your time with us. If you'd like to learn more about how I can serve you and your aspirations to be heard, visit my website at lifeforcemarketing.com. I also have something free for you today, an ebook full of tips for making your online presence more dazzling and unforgettable right away. It's a free ebook called 51 Ways to Shine Online. So thank you, one and all. That's all for now. Signing out for Hear Tell. I'll be back in about 3 weeks with another spotlight on Pathfinders. Good night. This is Meriah Kruse. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Hear Tell, Spotlight on Pathfinders. To see another interview, click on the thumbnail image in the upper left-hand corner.